Hello everyone and welcome to the channel. I'm Emmanuel, I'm an airline pilot, and in today's video I'm going to show you 5 destinations that you may or may not be familiar with that go perfectly hand in hand with the TBM 850. Do note that not every one of these is actually certified to handle a real TBM, but they are great fun to fly into in Microsoft Flight Simulator. So the first one we're going to start with is Loja Airfield. Now, Loja is a private field located in the Alps in Italy, and it features just a small little grass runway that you approach through a valley. The field has an intensive slope, which makes takeoff and landing only possible into a single direction. Also, it is hidden beneath part of a mountain, which makes it pretty hard to approach. And finally, to make things best, it is not even officially registered with the Aviation Authority, meaning that it has no ICAO code. There's a great freeware available on flightsim.to for this one. Now, going into Loja, you will notice that there are a couple of cables running through the valley, the first of which you can see coming here, that you can only identify by those little balls clipped to the cables, and you absolutely don't want to run into those. Alright, so that's our first set of cables that we are just about overflying over here, and you can see the second set coming just over there, so we'll go above that. You can see them coming right over here, and that leads us down onto the landing field of Loja Airport. Also notice that apron on the left side there, with a really interesting taxiway in. Alright, and here we are. So, better don't flare it for too long, as otherwise you are going to end up right in the cows at the end of the runway. Loja, by the way, is not just interesting for your landings, but it is likewise interesting for your takeoffs. If you have a look into it, we are going to make a 180 here at the end of the runway. Try not to scare those cows away. And then I'm going to show you the takeoff from Loja, which is just as interesting as the landing that we just about did. Alright, so, aligned with the takeoff runway, let's set thrust, and we better get going. So, flaps are down in the takeoff position, and that's it. Those buildings and trees here at the end of the runway make it rather interesting, but as you can see, you can just about get out of it, but you better maintain a good rate of climb, because there's that first set of power lines coming just over here, and the second set not being that far out as well. Making all in all for a highly challenging and lovely little airport to take your TBM into. Next up in our series, and just a very short hop from our all-time favorite airport of St. Martin, also in the Caribbean, we've got the airport of St. Barthelemy. Now, there are a lot of different versions available for this add-on. Personally, I'm using a payware version of this airport just because it looks that much nicer. But by default, Microsoft does include an enhanced version as well. Now, on this airport, I'm sure that many of you are familiar with those videos flying very low over the hill in front of the runway, and that is just about what we're going to do. You will see the runway come into view just over here in a few moments, and from there we are going to start our final approach. So make sure the flaps are out, make sure that your airplane is fully configured, because once you're going above the hill, you only have a very short amount of runway left before you're ending up in the beach a little bit earlier than most holiday makers would desire. Alright, the runway is just about coming into view, time for us to turn final. Make sure the speed is 80 knots as it is designed to be, and let's see how low you can get your TBM across those roads on the hill over here without actually managing to touch down on the road on that final approach. For sure, a very interesting airport, which I can very much recommend you to give a try. Next up in this series, we are going to continue towards the French Alps. Now, Pretty much any of you will be more than familiar with Courchevel Airport. If you're not, go and check it out. It is really recommendable. I've done a separate video flying there. But on this one, instead, I'm going to show you the French altiport of Megève. Now, Megève Lima Foxtrot Hotel Mike is actually included as a handcrafted version in the World Update 4 from Microsoft Flight Simulator. And it features a really interesting approach with challenging low-level circling. So to commence the approach, we're going to start over reporting point November at an altitude of 5,300 feet. You can see the runway is located just down there, going towards the mountain. We are going to initially continue parallel to the runway after overflying November, which by the way is this little house that you can see down here. So we overfly November and continue on a track parallel to the runway until we are making a 180-degree turn over the runway, fly across these mountains, and over here we start our final turn. All of that while we have to maintain a good look outside in order to judge our altitude and our distance from the airport, because as you can see, a go around in here would be rather challenging. Alright then, let's start our base turn. We're going to maintain 5,300 for now. We are already in landing configuration with the gear down and approach flaps, and we are going to switch to landing flaps now so that we have a little bit less stuff to worry about as we start the approach. Overflying the runway, we are going to go on a course parallel to the ridges that we have up here, and somewhere over here we are going to start our final turn. Alright, keep a good look on the speed that we don't lose too much of it. We don't want to go below 80 knots on the approach once again in the TBM 850. And here we are on the downwind, starting an initial descent at 500 feet a minute. And maintaining that on our way down. And we got the airport just behind us now, over here. And we will make our final turn as we pass abeam the ridge over here. This initial 500 feet a minute descent is really important to make you lose some altitude, as otherwise you are going to be in a very bad position to judge your altitude for the approach. So turning final, let's make sure to have a good look outside. And here we go, overshooting a little bit. Let's make it 30 degrees of bank then. Alright. Little fast, little high, you can see exactly where the challenge in approaching over here is. Okay then, this looks good. Getting it onto the final now. Obviously that was quite an overshot turn, which in a valley as tight as this one can be quite dangerous as well. So as you can see, a good coordination is quite essential for Megève. Okay then, coming in really low because we have just about 500 meters of runway available here from the displaced threshold. But then again, it is quite an upsloped runway, just like most French altiports are. Okay, coming in low, thrust idle, flare it out, and put it right onto the piano key. And here we are. Welcome to Megève. Spot number 4 in this series actually goes to an airport that I have included for its beauty of the approach and not for its challenge. This one is of course Bora Bora Airport, located in the Pacific Ocean, and this one, well, just look at it for yourself. Especially do so while I'm cancelling that landing gear warning here. This one is an absolute beauty to approach. Not just in terms of the terrain that you find on the left side of that center line, but also in terms of the location of the airport itself, right on that outskirt of the island over here. Totally recommendable. You are really going to love this one. And overall there are some great smaller airports nearby, all included in the World Update, so you can grab all of these for free from Asobo. Again, very high quality scenery and an absolutely beautiful approach, making for a perfect TBM adventure flying. If you really want to, you can also make use of the TBM's extensive range on flights in and out of here. With an ability to fly of up to 1,500 nautical miles, you have possibilities to connect to a lot of places that you might not initially think of. However, even if you just want to take some shorter trips, with the cruising speed of the TBM, you're going to be in for some exciting adventures flying around Bora Bora. Finally, and I know this is the one that you've all been waiting for, that you've been requesting me to do for so long on this channel. Last on the list, Luca. Now Luca, I think I don't have to explain. You guys love it. I do love it. And in this one, let's take our lovely TBM straight at it. So we're on the right hand base over here, and normally the TBM's required landing distance is about 1,000 meters. Obviously on incredible slopes like the one we have at Luca, it is a lot less, so let's bring it straight for it. We're going to start going for takeoff flaps and taking the landing gear down over here, because we really want to be configured early. We want to be within the acceptable performance data, especially from the point where go around is no longer possible. We can already see Luca coming up right on that side over there. It's currently hidden beneath the window frame. There it is. And on this one we need to be especially careful about our approach speed being approximately 80 knots, and we should give a fair assessment as to our landing weight. Okay then, flaps full. I am going to start our final turn in a moment. Yaw damper is going off. And here we go, on the right hand base. Now there is our field. Now the big challenge in this one, especially with all the snowy mountains around, is to keep the airfield steady in your window in order to fly a proper approach. So how are we going to do that? Well, initially we're going to line ourselves up visually, and then we need to find the correct spot on the window for the runway, and then we'll just keep it there. Looking at the runway, with its strong slope, really makes it easy to believe that you are currently coming in very high. But don't let the situation fool you. Coming in like this, we are looking pretty good. Look at the vertical speed indicator there, showing us just about 500 feet a minute, while at the same time the runway remains in a constant position in the windshield. And that is exactly what we're looking for this approach. Alright then, power idle, flare, and put it right down. We don't want to overflare this, but as you can see, if you touch down right on the spot, you can let it roll nicely all the way to the top. Just don't forget to brake early enough, contrary to Courchevel, where once you pass the plateau you've still got a bit of runway in front of you. In Luca, that is certainly not the case. Alright then, thank you very much for watching so far. Now, I have one little specialty coming up for you that I am absolutely sure you are going to like. And here is your little bonus airport. This one didn't make the original list because the runway is just too short to legally make it in. But as you can see, we are over in Sabah, and from here we are going to land on this 500 meter strip of runway just on this plateau outside the ocean. So this one is going to prove especially interesting because we simply have to touch down right at the beginning of the runway, otherwise we are not going to be able to make it. Also, in order to make it out to depart, in order to even record this video, I already had to come in and do a little power back using reversers all the way to the end of the runway, and I just barely made it over the edge, as you can see, with little fuel in the tanks at all. So, we are approaching against the rocks, and then we'll make a left turn the last moment to line ourselves up with that runway. The gear and the flaps are down, and we are starting our approach. Once we touch down, we will for sure have to take this one into full reverse so that we can stop the airplane on this 500-meter runway. Okay then, speed about 80. We're starting the descent. It can be quite difficult to judge your actual height above this runway because of the slope that starts just in the middle of it and because of the high rising terrain just in front of it. Okay then, yaw damper going off, and here we go. This one does look good to me, and it certainly looks very scenic. Okay then. So, power off. Let's get it down. And here we go. Touchdown. And I'm doing full manual braking over here. And we just about made it. Alright, that's going to be it. I do hope you enjoyed this one. I do hope that you like a couple of these suggestions. Let me know yours in the comments underneath the video. I would like to say thank you very much for watching. I hope that you enjoyed this one. If you did, do let me know by clicking that like button, as it does help with the YouTube algorithms. And finally, I am very much looking forward to hear what you have to say about this. Thank you very much, and as always, I'd love to see you subscribing, as it does really help the channel. And if you really love what I'm doing, I would appreciate a small donation through the Buy Me Coffee link in the video description below. Thank you for watching, and see you all again on the next one.